All right, let's jump right in. Today we're cracking the code on sleep apnea, specifically for your medical boards. We're going to skip all the fluff and get straight to the high-yield traps, the stuff they designed to trip you up on exam day. Let's do this!
I want you to think about it like this. Your body is this incredible, complex refinery that's supposed to spend all night repairing and refueling itself. But sleep apnea? That's a nightly mechanical sabotage where the main intake pipes just collapse over and over and over again. It's a really powerful way to frame the problem, so let's use it to break down the mechanics.
So, the very first thing you have to master is the fundamental division of this sabotage. On your exams, pretty much every sleep apnea question starts with one critical fork in the road. And here it is, the first critical fork in the road: obstructive versus central. The single most important detail, the only thing that really matters here, is respiratory effort. In obstructive sleep apnea, the airway is physically blocked, but the body is fighting. It's trying to breathe. You can see that effort. But in central, the brain just forgets to send the signal to breathe. No signal means zero effort. So on your exam, if you see effort, the answer is obstructive. No effort, it's central. Seriously, this is the master logic gate for every single sleep apnea question.
Okay, now for our first major board trap. It's a classic clinical vignette. You know the kind. It looks super simple on the surface, but it's hiding a really crucial diagnostic detail. Let's break it down.
So you get this question, right? A 60-year-old man, BMI of 40, and he's complaining about being sleepy all day long. The easy answer, the one the intern jumps to, is just simple obstructive sleep apnea. But is that a precise enough diagnosis? Could there be more to the story?
And here's where they lay the trap. They give you one more piece of data. His wakeful arterial PCO2 is 50. Now listen, this isn't at night while he's sleeping. This is during the day. This, my friends, is the daylight red flag. See, a patient with simple OSA should normalize their CO2 when they're awake and breathing. A high daytime CO2 means something else, something more is going on.
So, the crucial point is, this isn't just OSA. This is Obesity Hypoventilation Syndrome, OHS. You might also know it as Pickwickian Syndrome. What's happening is the sheer weight of the patient's chest wall is so immense that they literally can't breathe deeply enough to blow off CO2, even when they are wide awake. That key term, wakeful hypercapnia, is what separates OHS from simple OSA, and I promise you it's a favorite for exam questions.
And because the diagnosis is different, the management is different too. So the next best step is to confirm that high daytime CO2 with an ABG. And for treatment, you don't just jump to CPAP, no. These patients often need BPAP. And why is that? Well, because BPAP gives you two levels of pressure, a higher one when they breathe in and a lower one when they breathe out, which actively helps them blow off all that excess CO2 that their body is struggling to clear. All right, let's pivot to the second major board trap. This one is all about the numbers. It's about knowing exactly when treatment is mandatory based on one specific index. Meet your AHI compass. That's the Apnea-Hypopnea Index. And these numbers, they are absolutely non-negotiable on the exam. An AHI of 15 or higher means you treat, period. Mandatory treatment, doesn't matter what the symptoms are. Now, an AHI in that gray zone from 5 to 14 requires you to take a second look. You only treat if the patient has comorbidities like hypertension or heart failure. If they don't, the answer is just observation. Don't get trapped by treating a number without checking for those comorbidities first. Okay, we've covered the biggest traps. Now let's lock these facts in with a rapid-fire review. We're going to make sure this is all sealed in for exam day. Ready? First one, you see evidence of a blocked airway, but that chest is still moving, it's still trying to breathe. What is it? That is classic OSA, obstructive sleep apnea. The effort is always the key. Next, the polysomnography shows no blockage and, more importantly, absolutely no respiratory effort. The brain just isn't sending the signal. Yep, that's central sleep apnea. The command center is basically offline. How do we definitively diagnose these conditions? How do we get that all-important AHI number?
With a polysomnography, the official sleep study. It is the gold standard, no question.
What's that magic number on the AHI? The one where treatment becomes totally non-negotiable.
15 or higher. You see that, you treat. Simple as that. Okay, remember our first trap. The patient is obese, and their CO2 is high even when they're wide awake.
That is Obesity Hypoventilation Syndrome. Don't fall for the Pickwickian trap.
For our most common scenario, just straightforward obstructive sleep apnea, what are the absolute cornerstone treatments?
Weight loss and CPAP. Lifestyle modification and mechanical support, that's the foundation.
So, you've got this. The nocturnal shunts are secured, you know exactly how to manage those collapsing pipes. But what happens when the problem isn't mechanical, but cellular? Are you ready for when the refinery's air sacs are invaded by silent masses? Well, that's a question for our next explainer.